In the early days of building my business, I wasn't getting anything done. I was telling myself I was lazy, I didn't have the motivation, I didn't have work ethic. But the truth was that there were two separate things going on, and neither of those issues was work ethic. One of my issues was physiological, and the other issue was psychological. And the moment that I identified them, it all became fixable. So if any of this sounds familiar to you, I want you to know two things. Number one, you are not alone. And number two, this is completely fixable. So here's how I worked through both. My first issue was ADHD. I would sit in this chair right here and I would doom scroll for hours and hours and hours while all I needed to do was send a simple email or send a quote or send a bill to somebody. It was all the administrative stuff that I just didn't feel the motivation to get done. And I kept trying to fix it with more discipline, better routines, special apps on my phone that stopped me from going on the phone. I tried everything to force myself into productivity, but none of it worked is because I had a hardware problem that I was trying to solve with software. So here's what ADHD is on a biological level. Your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that helps with planning, follow through, focus, it runs largely on dopamine and norepinephrine. And in people with ADHD, the regulation of those two chemicals that help you focus is impaired. This means that the signal that tells your brain, hey, this is a worthy task to be working on, and here's the order that you should work on with those tasks, it's a little weaker than it should be. It's the chemical that translates desire into action that isn't firing the way that it's supposed to be firing. This whole thing is the equivalent of you telling somebody who needs glasses, just see harder, just look harder, just look harder. There's a physiological disadvantage that the person with poorer eyesight has. Are there some things you can do to improve your eyesight? Sure, but there is nothing like putting on a pair of glasses. So my doom scrolling on my phone, it wasn't laziness. My brain was just trying to find the fastest source of dopamine that it could because the work in front of me, like responding to emails, wasn't doing it. This is what it is like inside the head of somebody with ADHD. There's a handful of voices typically going on at all times. There's typically some sort of a backing track or a song that is going on in the head. And I will pre-say in my head everything I'm about to say physically. And when I took Aderall for the first time, it was like putting on noise-canceling headphones, and all of those voices just got quiet for the very first time. And I had that realization like putting on glasses where I was like, oh my God, I have been physically deficient here. And I also had this moment of you all have been operating on this level. I was like, I can't believe I took Adderall for the first time at 32 years old. I can't believe that for 32 years, I did not take advantage of that. So I solve my ADD, the physical issue of ADD, with two solutions. One is natural and one is medicinal. The medicinal side is Adderall. I take a very low extended release version of Adderall that kind of lasts all day. It's a slow, tiny little drip of dopamine just so that I can stay focused. Because you'll hear people say, oh, I'm going to take some Adderall because they want to fire themselves up. That is not somebody with ADD. That is somebody who has a high addiction, typically. I just want a slow drip so that it's easier for me to focus up. On the natural side, I use UpTime Energy, not a sponsor, but UpTime has L-theanine in it. And there's a lot of positive studies that are showing that L-theanine has the ability to help make bridges in your neural pathways that will improve dopamine production. For me, it's not a full substitute. For you, maybe if you feel like you have light versions of ADHD, it could be a full supplement for you. I have no idea. Not a doctor, okay? So I take Adderall, and I really only take the Adderall on administrative days where it's my whole entire calendar is empty. I just want to get work done. I will probably use Adderall that day. So I'm really only doing it a couple days a week. And then I will always have UpTime because it's an energy drink, but the L-theanine base, it's dramatically improves my ability to focus, which is incredible. So the point here is not the specific products. I'm not saying you should go get Adderall or you should go get Vyvanse or you should go get whatever other ADHD supplements out there, that medicinal supplements that are out there, or you should go get UpTime. The point I'm trying to prove here is that the issue was not willpower. The issue was not laziness. The issue was not being unreliable. My encouragement to you is that you need to figure out what this looks like for you. But don't skip this step because it feels like you're admitting some sort of deficiency. There's been a big stigma around ADHD, at least for me growing up, where it was kind of like you're the hyper kid if you have ADHD, but in my case, not necessarily the case. I was fairly normal. Maybe I was a little more talkative and social, so I got in trouble a little bit for that, but I wasn't this stereotypical ADHD kid. So how can you know if you have ADHD? I'm about to list a handful of symptoms, and if any of them resonate with you, it could be worth getting evaluated. I am not a physician by any stretch of the imagination, so I'm not diagnosing anybody here. However, these are some commonalities that I have experienced, that I've spoken with other ADHD individuals that are like, oh yeah, I've got that. Okay. So here's a handful that you could possibly identify that, oh, maybe I do have ADD. Number one, in emergency situations, you have this unnatural focus, this dynamite, just laser focus. Time even slows down for me specifically when I got in a car accident once and I saw everything moving in slow motion around me. And I was able to be hyper focused because my brain, the moment that rush of dopamine hits my brain, that rush of energy, all of a sudden I am just dialed in. So that could be one. Number two, during conversations, you kind of just drift. Somebody says one thing and that cues you to go on 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 other different mental threads. And then possibly you re-enter the conversation with something that is 10 connections away that the person's like, how did you even get there? And you're like, oh, well, I did this to this, to this, to this, to this, to this, to this. That's not how everyone's brain works. Third, you might have internal monologues going on at all times where you are just talking to yourself or you hear yourself narrating the things that you're doing. That is not a neurotypical experience. Number four, if you pre-say something in your head prior to it coming out, you might have never heard anybody actually name that. And when I bring this up to people with ADHD, they're like, I do that, where I will say the full phrase. I will hear the full phrase of what I'm about to say in my head prior to it actually coming out. And lastly, when you sit down to get work done, if you have a bunch of administrative work to get done, your instinct is just to go for the phone. And not because you're avoiding work, but because your brain is saying something like, oh, we just need to wake up a little bit first, or oh, I just need a little energy first before I get going. None of those things make you lazy. They just mean that you're someone who has a very specifically wired brain, and it's a solvable issue for you to get things done. So the medication handled the physiological issue. However, I still had a psychological issue, which was imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is the underlying belief that I don't belong at the status that I'm at. I'm not worthy of elevating to greater levels. Now, I didn't think about this constantly. I wasn't devaluing myself saying I'm worthless. I would just overvalue people around me and say, oh my gosh, I could never get to where they're at, or how could I ever get to that? So I was idolizing people. So I worked with an amazing executive therapist named Eduardo Archer. He is absolutely dynamite. Eddie saved my entire life. And the thing that he identified to help me get over imposter syndrome was not what I expected. He didn't just tell me to believe in myself more. He didn't say, oh, well, you know, that one experience when you were a kid, that's not who you really are, Jared. What he showed me was that I was overinflating my view of people around me. I would see people that were successful and I would look at them like they had something that I didn't, as if they had figured it out and I was the only one sitting around guessing. But what Eddie told me, something that has stuck with me ever since, is he said, Jared, all of us are just guessing. This is everyone's first time being a human. And it allowed me to kind of strip everything away and just said, everyone is a person just like me. And all of them are just guessing. They all have hopes and dreams and fears. And we're all just trying to figure this out. And what it did was it leveled the playing field in a way that confidence never could. It wasn't about hyping myself up, just believing in me. And essentially, it wasn't about overinflating my own ego. It was about equalizing and understanding that we're all in the same playing field. And the moment that I saw that clearly, the unworthiness didn't have anything to stand on anymore. And the results were awesome as well. I would send emails asking to be faculty members at certain conferences that I would have never asked for before because I would have felt like, oh, they'll reach out to me whenever they're ready. And then I would just ask and say, hey, I'd love to speak at your show. Or, hey, I'd love to speak to your people. And then I would get a response back, oh my gosh, let's do it. I would love that. And it helped me rewrite the negative view that I had of myself or the overinflated view I had of others around me. So if you've got a big project you're working on, or you have consistent tasks that are just killing you, you just can't seem to get them done, I would address identity framing. If you're saying, oh, I'm just a perfectionist, I'm just taking my time because I'm a perfectionist. Or if you're saying something like, oh, I'm just lazy, I'm just a lazy person. Identity framing is likely something that is killing your ability to progress, because if you sit within that identity, it feels comfortable and it feels normal, but you will never actually be able to get to where you want to go until you admit, oh, I'm just not doing the right things consistently. So if it's physiological, you feel like your brain is just working against you, you should talk to somebody. Go get a diagnosis. Go talk to a licensed psychologist and see what might actually be kind of going on under the hood. And if it's psychological, take some time to assess whether or not maybe you just have imposter syndrome. You have a belief that needs to be addressed. Because the fix here is not confidence. It's not believe in yourself, believe in yourself, believe in yourself. It's simply accuracy. If you can see people as people around you, including yourself as a person, it's going to work wonders for you. Hey, if this helped you a ton, then subscribe to the channel. Think of somebody else who's got ADHD or imposter syndrome and send it over to them. And give me a comment down below. If there's other things that have worked for you for managing ADHD or managing productivity in business, I'd love to hear it because I am constantly trying to get better here. Thanks.